I'm so delighted to be here in Washington, D.C. with my favorite FBI alum. How are you, Robyn?
Good, good.
It's always lovely to see you.
Nice to see you.
You're looking great. Happy Easter.
Happy Passover.
Thank you, thank you. You've been making appearances all over the place, Fox, OAN. Your story is finally getting out.
Yes.
Now, we want to talk a bit today about your former colleague, Andrew McCabe.
Yes.
The illustrious Porsche owner that we've got illustrated in today's graphic, just driving right over you. We've got a little Photoshopped roadkill version. That's essentially what he's done to you. I mean, it's kind of disgusting to me that we've got Andrew McCabe collecting over $500,000 from a GoFundMe campaign. Now, people may not realize this, but this is a guy whose personal net worth has been estimated at $11 million.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know where that fact comes from, but I've heard it from more than 5 sources.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's something to probably check into. I mean, something to take a good look at.
He does own a very large home. He does own a Porsche. You've seen him driving in that.
I haven't personally, but I do know people who have.
And Thomas Paine, a true pundit,
Yes.
I believe, has photographed it or seen
Yes.
it. Of course, his wife is a medical doctor. She's still employed. It's hardly like he's a destitute guy. I mean,
Yes.
GoFundMe is usually people who have had natural disasters or medical bills or injustices done to them,
Yes.
like in your case. And it really is disgraceful, in my view, that people, hardworking people, who maybe don't realize what Andrew McCabe has allegedly done, are sending him money. I mean, $500,000. Now,
incredible.
The argument was being made that this was to offset the loss of his pension, and I presume people who oppose President Trump and feel like maybe Trump had something to do with the ouster of McCabe want to send him money to kind of get back at Trump. But you've just told me that's not true. McCabe is not losing his...
No, he's not. He will get the majority of his pension. He just can't pull from it until he's older. But if he had retired on time, he would have started getting a pension check at 50. And the thing is, it's all a formula on how much you're going to get in your pension. I'm still going to get a pension, even though I did resign. And, you know, it's nice to know that. But he's still going to get, I can't even see maybe 20,000 being, or something small. Not 20,000 is not small to me, but to him, it's only going to be taken away 48 hours, basically. And I don't think that really is going to affect his pension all that much.
No. And so, I mean, that's the thing. As taxpayers, we're already funding Andrew McCabe's pension, but yet there are bubble-headed people who feel like they want to send more of their hard-earned money to him.
I'm shocked. I mean, when I was flying out here, I had gotten a text. I think it might have been from Thomas Paine to look at the the GoFundMe account on his, and he had about $37,000 in it. By the time I landed, and that's just from Chicago to DC, an hour-and-a-half flight, he had $250,000, or he was well over his goal of $250,000. I mean, and they keep raising it and raising it. Now, I do know he will probably fight the firing, and that does cost a lot of money. But at the same time, he is going to have to look at what is going to come out of the OIG report. And that, I mean, if you look at what they did to Flynn, it was almost about $1 million in legal fees just to get a plea. I could see it hitting that much for McCabe. What I think about all these donations is, I feel like it's people, not just the everyday people, but a larger amount of people there are trying to keep secrets hidden.
Ah.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I know, and I'd heard this from a couple sources, credible sources. Hello. Is that he had been stating several times that he was going to take people with him, or take people down with him.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay.
These interview locations are sort of catch as catch can, so it's people really should be going to the GoFundMe account for Robyn Gritz, because you're fighting FBI corruption and discrimination, and you've already had tremendous legal bills.
Yes. I've probably I've spent about 50 grand, if not more. I've had 2 different attorneys. I have a second attorney now, and what he is representing me on is my EEO complaint.
The equal opportunity employment.
Yeah, and so he only stays with that. If I should turn around and go civil, to civil court, I have to come up again with the money to institute that, to initiate it, to hire an attorney there, and this is also helping me, come here and speak.
Right.
I got here, special thanks to OAN, One America News Network. They brought me here for interviews, and they paid for the flight and the hotel, which is nice, because right now, I'm making about $80,000 less a year than I did in the FBI. And at the beginning, I went from a certain salary to 0 in one day. So I know how he feels about that. However,
who cares?
Who really? It's
But wait,
yeah,
you don't know how he feels, because your marriage ended in part as a result of the ordeal that you went through in losing your job, and you don't have a gainfully employed spouse who can ease the burden of all these expenses that you have. You are, you've had to sell your house, you've told us in the past.
Yep.
So you have been penalized for trying to shine a light on some of the alleged corruption in the FBI. And of course, we've heard Andrew McCabe, or rather we've seen in print in the horrendous rag, the Washington Compost, an op-ed piece written by Andrew McCabe about how he couldn't imagine in his worst nightmare being kicked out of the FBI. He thought he could just defy the law and obstruct justice and do whatever he wanted indefinitely and remain employed there. How did you feel about that?
It's like, I looked at the op-ed and I read it. I could have had the same title for mine.
Yeah.
When I sold my house, I got enough, what I made off of my house was just enough to retain the new attorney.
Right.
So the house that I had built for myself, basically I lost it. It was, it was pretty close to and thank goodness I got to sell it. But I want to point out, it also was reported that he has a second home.
McCabe has a second, right, for you.
Oh no, I don't have a second home.
Right.
I'm renting.
But when you had that other house, you were at a point in your life where you had dedicated your career to the service of the American public and the FBI. Yes. You finally, after fighting terrorism as a special agent, saving lives around the world and protecting the homeland, you finally reached a point in your professional career where you could own a home that you were proud of, that you were enjoying living in and everything, and then you lost it. I know how that feels, to lose a home that you really love.
Yeah, that was a really tough day when I had to turn the keys over.
Yeah.
You
cry a little bit when you...
Yeah, it is. It's tough because I see it, for some reason I still get updates on Zillow for my house, and I'm like, oh, you got to hit me with that again?
That's like your ex friending you on Facebook.
Yes, it is. And you're just sitting there going, okay, and I look at it and I see I could have made quite a bit of money if I kept it till now.
Right, if you weren't forced to sell it at an inopportune time.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things you lose over years. But nothing can replace some of the issues with my health. Nothing can take back what was done and what my parents had to watch.
And your career.
In my career, I loved my job. I loved going in every day. And the majority of agents and analysts and professional staff in the FBI, they're all ethical. They're all honest.
Right.
And in the op-ed, Andy makes reference to the DNA that keeps us all glued together. And speaking to a few retired agents, they said he needs to stop cloaking himself with the everyday FBI agent, and he needs to start answering some questions.
Right.
And I think we're about to see that. I do know that it was the FBI that fired him. It was not Sessions. It was not, it was not Trump. It was the OPR, Office of Professional Responsibility, proposing for immediate termination. And that happens to agents all the time if they lie. Right. When you come into the FBI, the number one thing you're told is do not lie, because you will be fired. Everyone knows that. And I just think someone that is in that position, deputy director, they have to realize that if they do lie, there are people watching,
Right.
and people that are not in agreement with him. So when you make statements to the Inspector General's office or to an FBI agent in OPR or / inspection division, you got to be clean. You just got to tell the truth. And if you made the mistake of doing something, just take the beating and whatever, move on.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's actually a crime to lie to an FBI agent, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's a 1001 violation, lying to a federal agent, and that would also work with the Inspector General's offices. Those are 1811 positions. They're investigators, government, and that's what they pushed on General Flynn.
Right.
Was 1001.
Right. They said that he lied to the FBI. Now, of course, Andrew McCabe says that he didn't lie, right? Or his lawyer. What was that? I want to bring up an image
Something to the
here.
effect of that Comey knew he was telling agents to speak with a certain media, newspaper, or magazine. And Comey's statements say he was not made aware that Andy had given this permission.
Right.
And so what I understand is there's 2 times that he allegedly lied to OIG and 2 times to the FBI. So
That's 4 crimes.
yeah, that's 4 crimes. That's 4 counts right there. He also, I see in his emails that he has had in the FBI vault, he talks about how he sought ethical advice on the Hatch Act. And he says, I had nothing to do with my wife's campaign. It's come out in the newspaper. Nothing to do. Then I wonder why you show up
Here's a
not
better
only
picture.
in the T-shirt, but also in your emails that are available. I encourage people to go on the FBI vault. It's the FBI FOIA releases of different Freedom of Information Act requests. And when looking through his emails, there's no mention of him meeting with Terry McAuliffe. There's none. And, I do know that Circa had done a Freedom of Information Act request to Terry McAuliffe's office, and what they gave back was McCabe's official bio was sent to them. And you don't do that. That is a very strict restriction on FBI agents and other highly restricted agencies. But so in essence, that's another form of lack of candor. I mean,
Well, but I want people to understand that's serious, because I think a lot of people look at this photo of a guy with his wife and she's running for state senate, and they're
Yes.
like, well, of course, why can't he support his wife? But the Hatch Act is specifically designed to prevent agents within the FBI from becoming politicized in any way.
Yeah.
They're supposed to dole out justice with no partisan bias, and if he's there stumping for the Democratic candidate for state senate, that's a serious matter.
Yes, it is.
And then he lied about it.
He puts out there, and you don't see, he lied. He said in his emails, he's saying he had no participation in her campaign. I mean, we're not allowed to post, when you're an FBI agent, you're not allowed to post on site who you're voting for. You're not allowed to refer people on your official FBI account. You're not allowed to refer people to your wife running for Senate. And I do see that there's some internal discussion between him and someone in either the finance or division where they're discussing where hopefully she'll win or and stuff like that. It just, you can't do that.
Right.
People have asked me, they said, is the FBI mostly Democrat or Republican? I honestly couldn't tell you, because we did not discuss that. I was in 16 years, and we did not discuss that.
And that's the way it's supposed to be. So
Exactly.
It's very interesting that Andrew McCabe, I mean, there he is lying, and he tells us he's not lying, so that sort of makes me not trust him at all. And the good news is our friends at True Pundit, and of course I'm wearing their very handsome baseball jersey today, but they've got a really unique promotion going on where if people go to truepundit.com, you can check out this article about a citizen's arrest opportunity. Of course, it's just a kind of a farcical citizen's arrest, but you can slap the cuffs on Andrew McCabe. They're going to ship a bunch of handcuffs to the FBI and Congress. And of course, they're doing this to raise awareness for exactly the topics that we're discussing.
Yes.
If you turn on CNN, if you look at the Washington Compost, if you look at these, let's face it, controlled media outlets, and I don't want to point a finger at who's controlling them, but they're owned by huge, multi-million or even 100 million, billion-dollar corporations.
Yes.
They receive funding from advertisers, everything from big oil to big pharma to military, industrial, technocratic, whatever.
Yes.
And we've seen how this revolving door works. You scratch my back while you're in the FBI, and then when you get fired, we'll put $500,000 in your GoFundMe account from, anonymous posts and whatever. There's a lot of ways this type of funding can go. So I'm glad that we're able to talk about it in this format, and that we can be independently funded by the people who watch our news and hear our stories.
Yes.
Of course, people who enjoy Crowdsource the Truth can go to patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and become monthly sponsors. But even more important than that is that we really need to support Robyn in her battle against the corruption at the FBI. So everyone should go on to GoFundMe.com, and if you just search ROBYN GRITZ, you can send money to Robyn Gritz. She's got a modest goal of $75,000, which she has not even reached 25%, but we want to help Robyn get to 75,000 and above and beyond that, because the legal bills and
Yes.
you've had medical bills. There's been an
Yes.
impact on your health
Yes.
from this, the stress and just the day-to-day living. This is a total injustice, and I find basically everything Andrew McCabe is doing disgusting. Sorry.
Hey, and I've heard that on my Facebook, people saying that's disgusting. I didn't think he could go that low. And when you look at how much he's made in just the weekend, it makes you think, I hope the OIG is on that. I'm looking at it. I do know that, his attorney, probably is really top attorney around DC, you're paying at least $900 an hour. So it does, yeah. Sometimes they'll take some off that percentage off that and get it from when they win. But to see that, he just bought 2 of my houses when what I would have bought my house here.
With that money, right? Oh.
Yeah, he just bought 2 of my houses. I lost my house. He has a second home, and supposedly the Porsche. I'd love to see what kind it is. From what I understand, talking to people, it's not one that you see every day.
I saw a number that said it was over 300,000. I think stock Porsches are generally 100, 200,000.
Yes.
So I don't know what he's got going. Well, in this
I don't
one
know
that
either.
I've depicted him in, he's got cash flying out the back of it. So that's all of his GoFundMe money right there. But you're mentioning the OIG.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of controversy, particularly on Crowdsource the Truth, about the OIG.
Yes.
We've had people who've said that he's great and he's going to drain the swamp. We've had people who have said that he is a swamp monster. Someone went and looked at the registry of senior executive service members, and OIG Michael Horowitz is in the SES.
Yes.
In our previous conversations, you've told me that SES is merely a pay grade, but we've had people all
Yes.
over the internet telling us SES is essentially a Nazi regime. Field McConnell has told us that his sister Christine Marcy was pivotally involved in the creation of the SES under Jimmy Carter. There are a lot of strange things about this SES that the general public doesn't necessarily understand. What can you tell us about it?
When I was when I resigned from the FBI, I was a GS-15. That is the highest rank you get before you hit SES.
There's no such thing as GS-16,
No,
right?
no.
So
yeah, I don't understand why someone had posted that. I saw GS-16 and I said, "There's no thing."
Well, because
GS-15?
the same guy that was death threatening me on the phone said that
that's the one, yeah.
George Webb is a GS-16. So obviously that guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, the GS is the general schedule. That is what some employees, there's different names and different ranks that in the military, and other agencies. So a GS-15 in the FBI or in the Department of Justice is the highest you can go. until you get a job that's considered SES, and then you're in the senior executive service.
But there's no GS-16 rank, because it's not even the general schedule once you're in SES. There's no other division that would have GS-16? It's totally...
No, I don't think so. I mean, I looked up on OPM, I looked at the Office of Personnel Management, I looked at FedWire, because I was wondering when I heard that, the GS-16, I went, ooh, that's something I didn't know about. They trained me about that, but when I was in the FBI, if you were a unit chief or an assistant section chief or an assistant special agent in charge, you're at a GS-15. When you hit assistant director or deputy assistant director like Stroke is, when you hit a level like Lisa Page is, you're above the GS level. You're in an SES.
Right.
And so, once you hit that rank, you're getting a pretty good salary, very good salary, and you're also in a leadership role.
Right.
So people are looking to you
Prestige,
for do the right thing.
All that.
Yes.
Porsches,
Yes.
homes, and everything. And Robyn, people have even had the audacity to ask me, how do I know that you're in the FBI, or that you were, rather? And all I need to do is look at this photograph of you here on your GoFundMe page.
Was it Louis and I?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's like photographic evidence. There you are. Not to mention, I mean, you've got the credentials, you've got 1 million retired FBI associates and friends. I mean, it's a ridiculously stupid question to question your credentials.
Yes, they can check that out. But at the same time, I think it's funny because people are saying, well, she was over here, she didn't even work with him. I've seen that a few times. I didn't even work with Andy McCabe. I actually worked with him from 2005 to 2013 at different levels.
He knows you by name. There's no
doubt. Gosh,
Yeah.
Yeah, usually right before my name comes the F word, but I mean, I just felt like he now is fired by OPR. He used that tool to target me after I had filed the EEO, 5 days after I filed the EEO. And he actively looked to destroy my career.
Crazy.
And I do have documented evidence of what he was saying about me. I don't think he realized that anytime you apply for a job in the FBI, if you don't get the job, you can get, and if your division head has given division head comments, you can take a look at that. And
what do you mean, like through FOIA?
No, as an FBI agent, if I didn't get picked for a position, there was a job at Quantico I was looking at, and I was the top rank out of 6 people after an interview and everything. And so the counterintelligence division was going to be with them doing teaching down at Quantico. And I was number 1, so it goes from the local career board down at Quantico to the FBI headquarters career board. And it's then when a division head, Andy McCabe, can submit comments or just support. And I understand from people that were at the SAMSOR meeting, he supposedly personally came there to spew venom about me. His comments on the division head comments, totally untrue, first of all. Second of all, very, he's libeling me in those. And you automatically get a copy when you don't get the job. So in essence, I was ranked number 1, and because of his comments, I became unranked.
Wow.
So he kept me, and I was trying to get out of the situation. It was hostile. And that just showed he wasn't going to let me get out of that situation.
Right, and I think people may not realize how high a level you had achieved at the FBI.
Yes.
There's a very strong possibility that Andrew McCabe was threatened by your presence there, not only in terms of competition for future jobs. He's obviously very ambitious, moving up through the ranks of the FBI. We saw another story today in True Pundit talking about how there was allegedly some sort of a deal. Where are we here? Some sort of a potential deal that Andrew McCabe, the DOJ, is examining a statement that McCabe was promised a promotion to FBI director by Hillary Clinton. Now, we would need to look into that. People should go to True Pundit and read that article, but obviously something like this represents a pretty substantial conflict of interest, doesn't it? If
Oh,
he's
absolutely.
making backdoor deals
Absolutely.
with Hillary Clinton to become the deputy director, this certainly smacks of like secret tarmac meetings with
Oh, yeah.
Loretta Lynch. You start to see the machinations of the Clintons, how they make their deals and sort of, stack their court in their favor and say, hey, when I'm president, if you throw Mr. Comey under the bus or make sure that all of the investigation is spoken of as a matter, and you let everybody know that even though I warehoused classified information on a server in my bathroom with no security, no sensible prosecutor would prosecute that. There's all these things that are done in the court of public opinion where
Yes.
Comey
Yes.
says something on CNN or C-SPAN, and then the entire country thinks the Clintons are fantastic and we're crazy. Send $500,000 to Andrew McCabe on GoFundMe.
Well, if you look at, you look at what was discussed in the True Pundit article, and the fact that he was seeking that, even if it was maybe a misunderstanding or something like that, he was seeking promotion.
Yeah.
I'd like to know if he let Mr. Comey know that.
Yeah,
Because
I'd be curious to know the same.
It just seems like, and it's just my personal opinion, just seems like they handed up Comey. He just was someone that was in the way. And I just think that you read reports that McCabe had been working with Rosenstein on that letter, or had met with Rosenstein. That's something that we all should know about.
Well, we also heard that Peter Strzok was the guy who changed the wording from
Yes.
investigation to matter.
Yes, and also he took the language out of the speech, basically, that would have clearly shown that there was culpability with her under a statute. So he changed that wording to soften it up a little bit,
Right.
and then to say that we couldn't prove intent and stuff like that. You don't need to prove that.
Right. That's not the way the law
No.
works. If
Yeah.
you're just so stupid that you use an unclassified server to store classified information, you shouldn't be Secretary of State, and you definitely shouldn't be president.
Yeah, just the fact that OPM was hacked a few years back and got a bunch of the malicious actors got a bunch of information on us federal employees just shows you that you are a target.
Who did that hack?
I'm not sure if it was.
Was it the Anonymous Collective?
I don't know. I don't know if it's been put out who it was. I thought someone said the Chinese. I don't know. And but I do know you have a lot of skilled actors out there that
Right.
are hacking into plenty of stuff, and also putting ransomware viruses in, like a city in Georgia actually just had that happen there, Atlanta, Georgia, where they had a ransomware. They were told to pay ransom in order to get their system back.
Right.
So these are, even if you aren't an expert in cyber, you're seeing it all the time on the news.
Right.
So having a server in our house that house secret
It's absurd.
or above,
It's the stupidest possible thing she could have done. Now, so we're speculating that it could be China hacking the
Yeah, you
OPM,
don't
it
know.
could be Russia hacking the OPM. We know from the WikiLeaks Vault 7 release, the CIA has hacker tools that allow operatives to mask their activity and make it look like it's coming from any country. I mean, and that seems obvious to even someone who's
Yeah.
not skilled in computers. You could just, route your internet traffic to a server in China or North Korea
Yes.
or Russia and use a Russian keyboard or whatever they say Guccifer 2.0 did. We know that there are hacktivists that are,
Absolutely.
arranging themselves in these loosely affiliated anonymous coalitions where they don't even necessarily know who's in it, what the purpose of each person in it might be.
Yes.
They've had their own operatives turn on them. In the case of Sabu, who became an informant for the FBI. So there's infighting in these hacker
yeah.
groups. There's conflicting agendas. I think that's a very dangerous combination of anonymity, powerful computer hacking tools, and I think a lot of these hackers feel that because they're smarter and have this capability, that they're free to do whatever they want. I mean, isn't this exactly equivalent to a UFC fighter feeling like because he's stronger than me, he can come snap my neck and that's his right to do?
Yes, yeah. And I don't understand about why she felt it was her right to have that private server and send official documents. And I mean, I've read a lot. I've gone to, actually, the State Department has an equivalent of the FBI vault. And I tell people, pull up both of them and look at the two different ones and put the story together. But there was talk of operations in there. There was talk of...
In Hillary's server.
Yes. There was talk around Benghazi in there. There was talk from, Sidney Blumenthal was feeding her information. And, she said, well, I was just a friend, or she's talking about someone else. That was just a friend giving me information. It's giving you a very big intelligence.
Well, he's also not just a friend. He's a principal at Osprey Global, which is one of these private, basically military firms that, we've got so much individual wealth being accumulated by people now, billionaires who can hire these firms, who can own companies like Palantir, who can hire lawyers like Sidney Blumenthal and put private servers in Hillary Clinton's bathroom. And you start to see how these networks of billionaires might be able to interoperate. How do we know that they're not involved in these anonymous hacking collectives that are hacking the server? They're fooling each other, taking this information out.
The funding, and that comes back to $500,000 in Annie McCabe's GoFundMe site. Where's it coming from? Follow the money. Mine, people are giving $5, $10 because they're saying, I want to help. I don't have much money, and just knowing I have your support is help enough.
Yes.
And don't, because I'm still in that spot where, donating here and there, I'd love to. I support in other ways.
Right.
And, to see where that money's coming from, a lot of it's anonymous.
Yeah.
In mine, a lot of it is people, everyday names. I was actually looking at some of the comments last night, and it's touching. It's what people have said, you're doing the right thing, you have courage. This has got to stop, and and then I have the hashtag on Twitter, the reinstate Robyn Gritz. It's been really trending a lot.
Did I come up with that?
Yeah, I think you might have.
I'm so glad I did. Yeah. We should reinstate you. We need more honesty at the top and more transparency at the top. And listen, if I've ever said anything that makes people feel like I hate the FBI, that's not the case at all.
No.
I absolutely want us all to live in a society. I'm not into anarchy. I don't want to live like a caveman. I think we all want a government and laws and an organized method of living so that we know the rules and we know what the rules are. We know we can go up to this line but not over it, and when someone does go over it, I don't want to take matters into my own hand as an anonymous vigilante. I want to know that I can rely on the NYPD, who refused to take my police report about persistent 9 months of harassment, people coming to my apartment, broadcasting that on the internet, giving me death threats, instructing people to attack me by name. These are serious crimes.
Yes.
And luckily, the FBI was willing to listen to me. Now, I don't want to go into too many details about that, but I think most people who watch Crowdsource the Truth and heard that ridiculous conversation with the threats from the obviously out of his mind.
Yes, it was really weird. It was like, I had to sit down and I had to keep rewinding it to listen to it because I was like, what does he mean by that? And he manipulated you to call him that day.
That's what he thinks.
Yeah, I know, that's what I mean. And I'm sitting there like, and he's touting himself. You don't know who I am and this and that. It's like, dude, you're just someone sitting in, your mom's basement, and on your keyboard, behind a keyboard. It's a keyboard warrior, and just spewing out stuff. I mean, I have not looked a lot into him, but just the conversation was it was weird. It was very strange.
Absolutely. And you know what's great about Crowdsource the Truth and the crowdsource model in general? It's not about me. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I don't know everything. I can't research everything. But when a conversation like that occurs, the 50 to 60,000 and more people that are watching all these broadcasts, that are learning firsthand information from you about corruption at the top of the FBI and all this other stuff, they went and investigated that guy, and they found out that he's some sort of new age occultist who's involved in this goddess religion and all kinds of things.
He did sound like a cult leader. I'll be honest, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that right off the bat, and I think it was really important that you called the FBI out on this. I mean, a lot of people just sit back and it's like they call it like the bystander syndrome, where people knew.
Well, they're intimidated.
That and they're looking and people know before attacks, and then they come back afterwards. Hindsight's 20/20.
Right.
You can't be that person. You have to reach out to the FBI and let them know this is happening, because you never know if you have a piece of the puzzle that they're looking for. And the fact that they called you back the next
less than
day,
24 hours,
that's a great indication that they find your complaint credible. They've probably done some preliminary checks on this individual and who he's associated with. Possibly he's known. You don't know.
So.
And quite frankly, for them to call you back, that was also very nice of them to do.
I agree, and they were
really
very
nice.
professional on the phone, and I'm going to follow up with them. I hope it does turn into an investigation. He, of course, wasn't the only individual that I spoke about. I mean, some of these people think it's funny, or it's their right to steal my intellectual property and use it to disparage my Jewish faith. They're spreading hatred. They're spreading division.
Yes.
It doesn't help anyone. It's not funny, and it is a crime. They can't just do whatever they want with no repercussions. And I find it very interesting that so many of these individuals, including this Douglas Gabriel, they go by different names.
Yes.
I mean, is Douglas Gabriel even his real name? We know that Gabriel in the Bible was a messenger. This guy fancies himself some sort of cult leader bringing the message to everyone. Like, he threw down the gauntlet. Why didn't I pick it up? I don't even listen to this idiot. It's just people, text things to me and send things to me. So I'm definitely looking forward to the FBI handling that situation for me, because I like things to be orderly and for everyone to respect each other. I don't like guys like Andrew McCabe trying to rig the system and make deals with Terry McAuliffe to receive money for his wife's state Senate campaign, and then lie about that, lie to the who did he lie to? The Office of Professional Responsibility?
And to the Inspector General's office. And then when you're looking through his email seeking, on the FBI vault, seeking advice, ethical advice, he's saying, I had absolutely nothing to do with my wife's campaign. I didn't attend anything. And then you see pictures of him, and you just are like, okay, that's another lack of candor, and that's to the American people, because that went out in a statement. And
but that speaks to his character, because that's not a small lie, that's not a small mistake. There's no way that he could be not aware. I mean, maybe, I sent an email, I meant it to go from andrewthecriminal@gmail.com, and it actually went from McCabe@FBI.gov. Whoops, my mistake.
Wasn't his only
Well, that's
time.
what I'm saying. A mistake like that he misspoke about, maybe we could forgive him. But when he says that he had nothing to do with it, and there he is with the T-shirt, he's received something like $1.2 million through Terry McAuliffe for that campaign. It's just egregious misrepresentation of the facts, and it demonstrates a modus operandi for this guy. He's operating with impunity, doing whatever he wants, and suppressing honest agents like you and the others that were involved.
I mean, not only me, I come on here and I do the interviews. A lot of times, a lot of people are afraid to come forward. So they send me, what has happened to them, or I've gotten in touch with them. And to hear the horrendous ways that people were retaliated against for even disagreeing on a report. One analyst, they disagreed on a report. Next thing you know, the analyst is without a job. The guy's like a designated terrorist expert. And he's pushed out of the bureau. All these, it's a smear campaign, and you see a lot of people that are hurting. A lot of people have lost their homes. A lot of people, I talked to one gentleman, he's been married 25 years. He almost lost his marriage because of it.
Right.
And they basically did a smear campaign against him. And then, I talked to someone else who has not seen his daughter in 4 years because the FBI came to them and said he's got issues and he's, mentally ill or something obvious. I don't know.
If we're thinking about the same person who you introduced me to.
Yeah, Michael Dick. He said
just
I could say his name.
Fake story to the news saying that he was a rogue agent, armed and dangerous, and then they retracted it 2 hours later. But that story came up in his family court issue. It
not only came up in his family court issue. Once you put something out, like be on the lookout, which is what they did. And I was actually still an agent when that happened. I had just talked to him on the phone. He was at home. He'd gotten injured at the range.
Right.
And he said, my unit chief was out to see me. So be on the lookout is what you put out when you can't find someone and you want to talk to them. Took me a good 14 hours, I would say, I'm taking a guess to put out a be on the lookout for Hani Hanjour, who was one of the hijackers. And we just wanted to make sure that no one else was using his paperwork. That's basically it. And to put that out, be on the lookout for this gentleman, and they know he's home because his unit chief was there. Not only that, I had gotten someone sent it to me, and I called the Office of General Counsel. I said, I see this was put out. What is going on? He just talked to me. He's at home. How he found out about it is even more interesting.
Watching the news, right?
No, his news crew, Fox News, showed up at his front door. Do you know that you're on be on the lookout and this and that? And that was hanging up in field offices. So when they say they rescinded that, they didn't really.
And it doesn't matter, because once it's out there, everybody knows, and it's sort of like that's the big glaring headline, and the retraction, if it ever comes, is a tiny little thing. We've seen this technique.
Yes.
And it's like I draw attention to it when it happens to me on Crowdsource the Truth, because so many people say, oh, ignore the trolls, don't feed the trolls. That is a dangerous attitude.
Yes, it is.
Because it allows them to persist in doing it.
Yes.
I want to shine a light on these people and show when they're lying. When someone comes on my program and says, oh, I'm debunking your guest because I have news articles, and I say, where are those news articles, Jake? And they don't get presented.
Yeah.
Where's the evidence?
Well, and I've seen that because someone on I don't know if it was Twitter. It was on Twitter. Someone posted a response to someone showing support for me, and he said she was a bottom of the barrel agent. And I'm sitting there like, dude, where did you get that from? He says, from things I read, and I said, give me a source. I have yet to do that.
He writes it on Twitter and then he reads it.
Yeah, I was reading it. So now it's corroborated.
And let me guess, it was not a real name. It was some Twitter handle.
I don't even know, because I went to his page and I noticed that he has, he definitely believes in what the deep state was doing, and he definitely is not a friend of someone that's exposing corruption. He's definitely not that. So he's making up and slandering, actually libeling, he puts it in writing, my name. I don't have to, and I think people need to realize this. I'm not a public figure. Andy McCabe was. So it's tough for him to bring a libel or slander case against anyone. Possibly the FBI could, but he was already out in the open. He's already a public figure by his position there before all the firing. Me being a private citizen, when people write these things about me, I have more of a recourse to file against them, because you don't have to show maliciousness in libel. You just have to find out and prove that it was wrong.
Right.
And with this individual putting that out there, trying to dirty my reputation and such, I don't know them from Adam. I don't know where they're getting that information. And I mean, I have plenty of awards and promotions to back myself up.
Of course.
And I just don't understand how someone could put that out there. You sit there like,
because they know,
weirdos.
They know that you can't go sue 50 different people. I mean, it takes them 2 seconds to put some piece of crap like that on Twitter, and it could spread around to thousands of people.
The keyboard warrior. Yeah.
And for you to combat that, you're going to retain a lawyer, you're going to sue this guy who has no money, sue that guy who has no money. So that's why I think it's important that we shine a light on the technique that's being used.
Yes.
It's a decentralized slander campaign for everyone on the internet, and this could be happening to you.
Oh yeah.
Anyone could create any number of anonymous Twitter accounts with different names, and then they write something about Robyn Gritz, and then this other person reads it and says, oh, well, I read it on 4chan, I read it on Twitter, that's evidence, I have evidence on Twitter. I don't think that's correct. I'm not a lawyer, and I can't speak about slander or libel per se laws definitively. I can read about them and I have ideas, but a lawyer friend of mine once said, and this is kind of like a legal joke or whatever, Charlie Chaplin lost the Charlie Chaplin look-alike contest, meaning whatever the law is doesn't necessarily determine what the outcome of your particular case might be, which is why we see a lot of morons who like to rob and steal bringing frivolous lawsuits, because they know the more they can repeat, they resubmit their claims, they amend their claims, they want to jam you up on the process stuff. As long as they can get a default judgment or have you missed some technicality, then they can run around the internet saying you're being sued, you've had this a federal investigation, or they could have someone call in and say, hey, there's a bomb threat over here, and then blame you for that and write a government report about it.
If you see Scrubs, or I can't remember his name. There was a gentleman that worked here in the news, Krebs on security, and he does a lot with exposing some of these people because they did what's called swatting to him.
What is that?
They someone made a complaint saying he had something in his house, or that he had drugs or whatever, it doesn't matter, and that he's dangerous, and so SWAT shows up.
Wow.
4 o'clock in the morning.
So they just do that from anybody filing that complaint? How can they do that?
They really, I guess what's happening is, and I don't know the exact how they did this, what they alleged, but I mean, his family's asleep, he's asleep, he has no idea what's going on. The SWAT team has no idea what's going on because they're just being told this guy's
Somebody
dangerous.
Could get killed.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. And it's not only that, it's a false report.
And it's the SWAT guys could get killed, the guys in the house, children in the house could get killed. That's not a joke. And there are all these jokers out there on the internet who think it's funny to do that, to instruct people to kill me. Now I walk out of my apartment and somebody hits me in the head with a brick, and this guy's going to say, well, I was just joking. It's not a joke.
No, it's not.
This is why I called the FBI. Because I want to put a stop to this nonsense. We cannot
that behavior, it's unacceptable.
What happened to this guy when he got swatted?
They finally figured out what the problem was, and that it was a false statement to a report called in. And he now he does run his own website, and he does give advice on, I mean, anything from hacking to, it's really more of an information security advice. And he has had to fight them on frivolous lawsuits.
Right.
He's had to fight people that are hacking his computer.
Right.
People that are saying things about him, and people don't realize what the, I guess, unintended consequences of something could happen. And like you said, walking out, someone hits you with a brick. Someone gets upset with a bunch of congressmen, goes to a park in Alexandria, and starts shooting.
Them up. Right.
People do not realize what they're saying and what they're doing feeds into this hate. And it's not just the lies, it's the feeding the hate. And everyone needs to realize we're in this together.
Right.
And, I know there was a little squabble yesterday on Twitter between a couple of different people that, a lot of us watch or look at. And I was sitting there like, why are you doing this? Why are you discrediting someone else? Or why are you then telling your followers to unfollow this person? Why are you doing that? You're both on the same page. You're not on the same side.
Well, not on the same page. That person is.
No, okay, not on the same page, but on the same side. And
no. I think the problem is they try to appear like they're on the same. We're talking about Tracy Beans. I'm calling you out, Tracy, because you're giving a problem to Thomas Paine. You lied about me, and you've never retracted it. And I'm sorry to...
I think, what did they say? You were Mossad or something?
They said I was Mossad and that evidence was coming. They've been saying this for 9 months. It's untrue. There's no evidence. And there's a really disturbing...
It's just because you're Jewish.
Correct.
That's all.
And there's a really disturbing amount of anti-Jewish sentiment that is building on the internet. And there's a group of people who are filled with hate, who share incorrect information. Now, let me ask you this. The only place I've ever heard this has been on the internet, but this dancing Israelis on 9/11. Were there Israeli art students dancing and doing something on 9/11?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't remember that, and I was in the middle of it all. So, and reading the intelligence reports that came in, I was in Newark, the Newark FBI office, and assigned to cover Flight 77, be the case agent on Flight 77, because those hijackers had lived in New Jersey. Right. So I'm going to read all the intelligence coming in that might be saying, oh, who's supporting... I never heard that one before. There were alleged Muslim people dancing.
On the roof.
On the roof or something like that. Yeah, he spoke about that, but at the same time, when that was coming out, I was still, running out leads and sleeping maybe 2 hours on the floor of my office and everything. So I was unable to track all that down. But, it's a lot of hate.
Right.
And we all should the whole thing, we should get along. We really should.
Well,
when you see what's fed out there, and I see the whole thing, when I read the page and stroke emails and text messages, and I see what their bias was, and I wonder why they still have jobs, to be honest with you.
Right.
Because I mean, that's just, they were advocating the overthrow of a sitting president.
It's really crazy.
It is, and I sit there going, and I was an honest agent. I was an ethical agent.
And that's why you got pushed out.
Yes, and the people I talked to, and this is something I talked to Emerald Robinson about yesterday. I said, you know, it seems to be the people that were counterterrorism and counterintelligence agents and analysts, the specialty of it. And why? Because you had Andy McCabe over here, you had Stroke over here, and Bill Priestap, I don't know him, over here. So you're seeing some damage to the experience, to the in counterterrorism. How much is this affecting our national security? And I just find that a lot of us were forced to resign. There were other people, or fired, and at around the same time. And I know a lot of people from counterterrorism that were. I know some who had said that McCabe had something to do with theirs. I don't know their case. I haven't read their case. But I do really question, why is counterintelligence and counterterrorism agents with 16 years of experience, I mean, I don't know how long the analyst sees, maybe 20 years experience. He was the first person, I believe, in the counterterrorism division, at least the first analyst, to be qualified as an expert in court. It was a big deal because, you know, to become an expert. And then a few years later, short years later, while he's working his butt off, he gets allegations, he gets noticed that he's under an OPR, and, you know, I just, you know, it is kind of weird that OPR was used by McCabe and by Stroke. The insider threat, they deem some people insider threats. There's
What does that mean, insider threat?
I know. And I don't exactly know what it means. I would say what it means is someone's making an allegation against someone within the FBI, that they are co-opted or they are working with another foreign entity or terrorist organization, or and what they're basing it on. You know, you could have people putting in complaints, just like they did with
the
Krebs.
SWAT team, yeah.
And, you know, and then these people lose their livelihood. They're put out there. I've talked to a couple agents that were under this program that have still been fighting the FBI because they're like, you know what, just because I was born somewhere else and moved here when I was 2, and I go back and see my family and friends, I'm all of a sudden an insider threat.
Right.
They went overboard, and from talking to Mike Dick, because he worked counterintelligence, I did not. You know, it was part of that program over there, and when you go down the office, knock on the door when Mike was still in, and who answers the door? Peter Stroke. So, or Strzok, I don't know how to say his name. And, but, you know, there were ways to target people that were justified by certain people. And I find it weird that the insider threat is basically Strzok's baby. And now we're seeing who actually was the insider threat.
Right.
I mean, their stuff could have been overheard by a foreign entity. You never know. And the other thing is, and I put this on Twitter, I think on Facebook too, back when I got into the FBI, we were told extramarital affairs, you automatically would have your clearance ripped from you.
Because you could be blackmailed.
Exactly. And I mean, we all know that they were having an affair, it was brought up and everything, and they're still working there.
It's ridiculous.
It is. So where's the law and order? Where's the justice? Why are they still working there? They should be suspended without pay right now.
Yeah.
Andy McCabe should have been that back then, as soon as the Inspector General found this stuff. I mean, you leave someone in a spot, or you move them, and someone just brought this up to me, move them from that spot into human resources. Now he has access to all the human resources. That's
right.
Scary too.
Yes.
It's like a Robert Hansen thing, but you know.
What you're describing essentially is this secret society, and to the casual, you know, viewer, they might say, yeah, why are they still working there? Well, let's imagine a hypothetical situation where a malicious FBI director might want to have control over these people who he knows are having extramarital affairs, who could be influenced by the threat of firing, the threat of exposing an extramarital affair. That's exactly the type of agent that he wants.
Yes.
Because it's like, hey, you know, I could not pay attention to this if you take care of this. And the other thing I think that people don't realize about this situation, like with Krebs, where someone calls in a prank or whatever, someone could be killed. it's traumatic to the guy. He's got children in the house. What about the fact that some other actual crime could be going on somewhere, and you're wasting police resources,
Exactly.
FBI resources? You're talking about counterterrorism agents that are being pushed out by, they're not on board with McCabe's agenda.
Or they don't appear to be.
And how many terrorists will now succeed because this person isn't able to do their job? That's putting everyone in the United States of America at risk.
Yeah, but you know what? And also, it's not that they're not there to do their job. They're hiring. We're hiring people. Those people don't have the 16 years of experience.
Right.
They don't have the source base that that agent had or the analyst had.
Right.
They don't have the connections. I mean, because it is political. I mean, you have to be a diplomat.
Job.
And it was a fantastic job. I loved it. But when people first come in, they don't have all that historical background of terrorism. When I first came in to work terrorism, I said, "The heck am I going to do?" I worked drugs and gangs for basically all my life, and I came to the squad up in Newark, and I remember they called it indoctrination. They were joking about it, but there was required reading for me. And it was like, you need to know what's going on in the world in terrorism. And, I learned on the job, but at the same time, people that I work with that have been there 12 years or what have you, were more than willing to train you. Right. But when you're hiring these new people and you're bringing them all into FBI headquarters or what have you, and they don't know who Abdullah Azzam is or Syed Khatib, they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And, and you're sitting there going, that is like the grandfather or godfather of offensive jihad, or something like that. And I did ask that one time. I was sitting in a meeting, and people were talking about al-Awlaki, and I said, anyone, what do you want to say about Abdullah Azzam? And they're like, who? I was like, oh my God, you don't know who that is? So the unit chief sitting next to me was like, she's gonna blow, because you know what, you have to understand that.
Yeah.
They understand that. You gotta be on the ball like those terrorists are.
Yes.
So to see some of my fellow counterterrorism comrades, who I consider experts and really hard workers, to see them looking for a job, to see their clearances ripped, that is the thing that gets me. When they rip your clearances.
Destroying America. I mean, it's like any job. You learn so much just by doing it that when then they,
Yes.
Somebody pushes out a good agent for some ridiculous reason, it's just terrible. And I really think the people that are sending money to Andrew McCabe so he can drive around in a Porsche and have multiple homes and lie and break the rules of the FBI that are in place to keep us all safe, I mean, those people don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah,
they should
don't.
be sending money to your GoFundMe campaign, because we do want to reinstate Robyn Gritz. She is a talented, she was a talented FBI
Probably a little rusty now. And I've kept up on my education. I mean, it was something I was passionate about, was working counterterrorism, was protecting people, was saving lives. I mean, there's a time where I was working one case and something was going to happen in a public square in a foreign country, and you get the information to them because this is going to happen. That saved about 200 people. When you're doing that, that's you're protecting your homeland. You're protecting the people at night. Like take General Flynn. He was protecting America. They turn around with false statements, and now we know there is the possibility that during his meeting for the plea agreement that he was not aware of all these other things happening with McCabe and with Strzok and with Page, and he may have pled to something that actually should never have been brought against him.
Right.
And people ask me what I think about Robert Mueller, and I think we've discussed, and I always got along with him. I just felt that he was very thorough, and
I hate him.
And here's the other thing is, put yourself in his shoes though. He has these two people from the FBI that are supposedly, top notch, doing this, doing that, and they're communicating, and he's getting lied to. I mean, he's getting lied to by them. I know he'd be madder than a hornet. So, just hopefully we'll see that General Flynn's case will get the proper justice, whether the judge throws out the charge or maybe Director Mueller himself takes out the charge.
Right.
And does the right thing.
We should. Thank you for bringing it up, because I also want to mention that Michael Flynn has been wrongly persecuted by the same jerks we're talking about. Andrew McCabe even said, and we heard about it in True Pundit, F Flynn, and then we F Trump.
Yes.
That is such an important statement. Michael Flynn is a patriot.
Yes.
Would have been an outstanding national security advisor, and could have been like the right hand to President Trump. That was the first major blow by the deep state to the Trump presidency, and I definitely want to encourage people to go to MikeFlynnDefenseFund.org and consider supporting Mike Flynn instead of the obviously lying, provably lying Andrew McCabe. Don't send him $500,000.
Send it to Mike Flynn.
Send it to Mike Flynn and Robyn.
I mean, I've worked with Mike and known him since 2005. And back in 2005, we were counterparts, equals. And as time went on, I laughed. I actually asked him, I said, look at your director of DIA, you're a director. I'm still GS-15, how many years later? And he just was like, he said to me the other night, he actually just texted me, they lost someone so valuable by getting rid of you. And he didn't understand that. Now, Mike Flynn was the first person to go on the record and also to write a letter on my behalf. And that's because we did a lot of whole of government fight on terror together. And we did exactly what we should have been doing. Department of Defense, FBI, NSA, whoever.
Interoperating between the agencies.
And talking and meeting and finding out what is the next point of our strategy. And we took a lot of people off the battlefield, a lot of terrorists down. And to see that, I mean, who now has the knowledge to be and experience to be able to do that? There's times where I do still sit there going, why? Why do they target me? And why do they target Mike Flynn? I'll be honest with the National Security Advisor was one of the positions that Trump nominates that doesn't have to be cleared by the Senate. So that's probably, number one. The meeting that Obama had with Trump, first person he warned him about, Mike Flynn. Never heard that before.
Well, but that's because Mike Flynn said that Obama created ISIS, and he was right.
and you're sitting there, and you're like, so he's setting it up there. That's the deep state. Let's take this guy out because he's not going to follow us. Plus, he's
going to bring him down.
Yes, and people, I mean, they go after him. They go after his family, and I share a lot of similarities with Mike Flynn in my case and how the process is the punishment. Both of us having to get rid of our houses, both of us being wrongly accused, and both of us not really getting the chance.
Publicly.
Yeah. And I resigned, health reasons, financial, and also family. I didn't want to keep my family going through it.
Right.
By the time we got to where I resigned, it was a year and a half after of hell that they were putting me through. And some people are like, you don't know going through hell. No, yes, I do. My father was sick. He had to be medevaced because he was bleeding internally of stress-induced diverticulosis.
Oh.
I have diverticulosis.
That can be deadly.
Yes, and I have it too. So the entire year and a half, this is the medical problems. I'm in and out of the hospital drinking chalk.
Oh.
I got so good at doing those tests that you see people over there, sipping the chalk. They'd hand it to me. I just put it down. Let's do the test. The guy would laugh at me, and I'm like, "Oh, I've been here like 3 times, and it's just going to show you I'm still having a diverticulitis attack."
Oof.
Which, back in '99, I was hospitalized for 7 days in ICU because of it.
Wow.
I got peritonitis because it did leak into my abdomen.
Oh my
you can
God.
die.
Yes.
I was out of work for 45 days.
Oh,
wow. You can't afford that now.
No.
Then you look at everyone I've talked to that has been pushed out. It is a trauma. And I tell everyone, go get counseling, because you're going to have that feeling of betrayal, and you're still also going to be asking, what could I have done? And I heard that is the number one thing that a person's been in a trauma says. Why me? What could I have done differently?
Well, they want to put you in that victim kind of mode to weaken you and all that kind of thing. Robyn, I know you've got a flight to catch. There's so much that I want to talk to you about. Why is counterterrorism, not anti-terrorism? It seems like they're using terrorism to fight terrorism. Anti-terrorism seems like what we want. People should definitely be going to GoFundMe and helping Robyn overcome corruption in the FBI, helping her deal with her medical bills, her legal bills, her day-to-day expenses. Robyn Gritz is an American hero. She is a wonderful former FBI agent. I'm proud to say a friend of mine.
Yes, absolutely.
Robyn, happy Easter. Thank you
Happy
for meeting
Passover.
with me today.
Thank you.
Have a
My
safe
pleasure.
flight back, and I'm going to see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Happy Easter,
Happy
everybody.
Easter.